Evolution is a 2001 American comic science fiction film directed by Ivan Reitman, starring David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, Seann William Scott, and Julianne Moore.
Woo! It's me! Get this thing out of me!
Hey, Harry.
Ooh.
How are you going in?
I might be able to catch it in his colon. All right, flip him!
I'll get the lubricant.
There's no time for lubricant.
There's always time for lubricant!
This season,
Is there some sort of alien attack happening here?
have a nice end of the world evolution.
Good googa mugga.
Come on, cutie pie.
David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, Seann William Scott,
Awesome!
and Academy Award nominee Julianne Moore.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Uh-oh, time to go!
Evolution.
Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm John, the host, and once again, I'm joined by my partner in crime. That's right, Mr. Johnny Mulligans. Welcome back.
Hi!
We are talking about a film that I'm so glad that still holds up. Very underrated science fiction comedy film. Ivan Reitman directed Evolution. Johnny, why are we talking Evolution?
Because this one didn't suck. Because I had fond memories of this movie, and going back and rewatching it, I was relieved that it was nowhere near terrible as people might have. It didn't do that great at box office, right? And even after DVD and Global, it didn't quite make all of its money back.
Right, yeah. We'll get into that real quick. We are both day drinking. I'm just going straight for the makers because it's just that kind of day. And, we have to evolve, right? Do you have something that's helping the evolution process?
Crown Royal and Ginger Ale. It's all Canada, actually. We're Canadian whiskey and Canada Dry. And
wow. Oh, Canada.
Canada.
Yeah. New Maker's Mark at noon. It just brings out the flavors a little more.
You feel more awake.
I really do. And I have a coffee chaser, so I'm going to be quite evolved. I might get a third eye for real.
Boing.
So let's talk about the film. So Ivan Reitman, the director of such classics like Ghostbusters, but that is, I think, a blessing and a curse for this movie, because when this film came out, this is the definition of a polarizing film. It got like 47% on the tomato meter. It had a budget of $98 million. It only made 80. So this is the definition of breaking even. And I think half the people got it, but half the people just thought that this was a Ghostbuster Redux that wasn't that good.
What was the one with David Duchovny? I think it was also Ivan Reitman. Wasn't that Evolution or something like that?
Oh yeah. Oh geez, that movie.
Wasn't that basically made to be another Ghost? It's like Ghostbusters, but wacky supernatural.
What it tries to do, Ghostbusters did better. As far as the aliens and the creatures and all that stuff is concerned, Men in Black did it much better. None of the plot made sense. None of it made sense. None of it doesn't.
It made sense.
And I couldn't argue against that more. I think that this is its own thing. I think that, okay, it feels kind of like a relative to Ghostbusters just because it has that quippy dialogue, and it's about the characters, and it's about the humor, and it's not so much about ghosts or aliens. But that's fine, and that's why I enjoyed it so much.
And I don't really see, now that you're, making that connection for Ivan Reitman, that's like, okay, now we know why Dan Aykroyd shows up for a cameo. It's like he's got the connections. It's great. That's fine. And Aykroyd was doing that back in the 2000s. He was popping in the movies just to give him a little bump. And I think I never made any connection to this being anything like a ghost. Maybe the movie buffs were all like, well, there's going to be another Ghostbusters, and I'm just a regular schmool. I was like. I didn't know that. I was like, Evolution, David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, let's see what's up. And I don't know. I don't understand how, if people were getting all prickly about, oh, he didn't do it like Ghostbusters. No, I'm good.
Right.
That's not what he was trying to do.
A lot of the other criticisms, too, was the casting choices, which I think was, again, another bright spot. You think a quippy comedy, you don't necessarily jump right into David Duchovny or Julianne Moore, even. You do cast Stifler, and I think that he shined so well in this role. And Orlando Jones, like, this was Orlando Jones' coming out party. Like, he was so funny in this film, but it didn't mean that Julianne Moore and Dave Duchovny weren't. Like, they, I think the two main characters, I mean, it's kind of a trio, where again, that's where it draws a lot of comparisons to Ghostbusters. You have this trio, and then later on you have an addition with Julianne Moore. It's kind of like the Winston Zeddemore, but I think that the core two, your analogs for Vakeman and Ray Stantz is Dave Duchovny and Orlando Jones, and their chemistry in this, they do so well, like throwing jokes off back and forth. I think they just nailed it. I think the casting was the strong point of this.
And I think, and that's the thing, like you know, we're only less than a half dozen films of me being into this called the film series, and when it comes to looking at how these cast members interact with each other, it did feel like there was a better chemistry. It felt like the flow was there. It felt like they were in tune with each other, and they had a real good sense of what type of comedy they had to bring in. Like, what we got, like Sean William Scott, kind of pigeonholed into that Stifler style of comedy, which he was doing in the early 2000s. You know, that he was brought in probably specifically for that. That was his role. That was what they need to fill for this movie. That's fine. And then you've got Orlando Jones had his own style, but Duchovny being, you know, when did X-Files ran in the 90s? When did it wrap? Like in 2000?
In the 2000s, yeah.
Okay, so he's one of these science conspiracy type nut characters that's now going into this comedy role. I think it balanced out. I think I think having a cast being all zany would have just been overkill. I think it would have been like too much sugar. And then you need to have a nice balance of sugar and salty and, you know, sour, all that stuff in there. And then I think Duchovny could come off with this kind of dry humor, and that delivery, I think, worked really well for the type of interaction he had with Orlando Jones. And then even with Julianne Moore's character, what I loved about her character was this, she's playing the role of this, you know, serious science person, but a complete klutz. And sort of like this little bit of flirty thing. Like nothing was over the top with her role in terms of how she was delivering that comedy. So I think that worked out really well at the same time. And I didn't make any kind of connection. Like when you go to, like, you do a comparison to like Ghostbusters, the three of them, they're already a team. Like, you know, right. Going in, they open up and they're showing you there's already a relationship here with these people. They work together. They know each other. They antagonize each other. It's there. When we get to Evolution, it's like, it's Duchovny's character and Orlando Jones. You know, they work at the same school. They have this set up relationship. They work with each other. That's fine. But as far as showing them Scott's character and Julianne Moore's character, they feel more like they're orbiting that dynamic. I don't feel like they're a full piece of that until you get very far into the movie when their fates are collided because of it. It's not like it was a team. We're building a team. It's like, no, we're stuck in the same boat kind of thing. So it felt different. Maybe Reitman had that plan of having that setup of these four characters do eventually come together in this combined, you know, shared mission. But I think that their path to that point was different. It's almost like we got a prequel to this interaction versus the actual kicking it off with this is who they are and how they are. Sure. So I like the way that moved along. I like the way the story was written. I don't know. I like the movie, and watching it again, seeing them going through the movie, after years of not having seen it, it definitely, you can nitpick the little things out of it. Some of the things you can see where the special effects do have a touch of hokey to them, compared to by today's standards, but they didn't suck. They were fine. They did fine for what they had at the time, and I think it still holds up. And you can see how these special effects were evolving and becoming more fine-tuned better. And definitely this, you can see like they're really getting into that point where they're becoming more seamless. They're definitely looking better, even by today's standards. It's not a shit special effect. It's good. I liked what they did with. I liked the way it worked.
Well, it was a perfect mixture of practical effects and CGI. Definitely built some models. They built sets, like when they're down in the area where the crater hit, the constant evolution of that area of adding all the different plants. It looks great. Some of it, when he throws the match and the amoeba explodes, it looks like Sci-Fi Channel. But it's okay because it's a sci-fi comedy. This isn't supposed to be Abrams-esque Star Trek or Star Wars. This is just supposed to be a fun romp. But going just back to the cast, because I think that's so important, because if they didn't make these choices, I think this would have fallen apart, is like, who better to front your silly, zany sci-fi at the time? Well, put the poster boy of sci-fi, of television sci-fi, in David Duchovny, and put him in there, and then backfill the rest of the cast with all these like great comedians. Like even the Sarah Silverman cameo is so good.
Yeah,
Ethan Suplee in this. Ethan Suplee from Mallrats and stuff. He plays a good role with Michael Bauer from Salute Your Shorts. I'm really dating myself now, but you really Ty Burrell is Colonel Fleming in this. You have all of these really seasoned comedians, and that's what you need. And like you said, you need that contrast where you couldn't have just thrown up like a Jim Carrey in the role of Ira Kane, because then it just would have been too much. You're eating too much chocolate cake. Put him in there, and you put Orlando Jones in this role was a revelation. Like he's at the time, people knew him as like the 7-Up guy, and I'm so glad that Ivan Reitman gave him his time to shine in this, because he really did. And I think this really lent to like roles later on in like American Gods and stuff like that, where he really got to show what he could do, where he could be menacing, he could be funny. The comedy is such where this not only had quotable lines like a Ghostbusters, but it had quotable scenes. Like the entire thing of Orlando Jones getting a like alien mosquito up his ass. You could quote that entire scene like 5 minutes. It's so memorable. It's not just like a one thing, it's just like it's going for his leg. Oh, don't take his leg, he thinks he's an athlete. And
then I love at the end of that scene, it's like I'd like some ice cream. Oh yeah, okay, what flavor? Doesn't matter, it's for my ass.
Yeah, or when they're calling the bird in the mall, where he's just like, caw, tookie, tookie. I think the caw, tookie, don't work.
Oh my god.
It's just so good. It has like these like long set pieces of things that are just so quotable and so much fun. And you could tell that everyone in the cast, from the more serious actors to the comedians, are just having a blast. And it's like, it's such an infectious movie you can't help but smile.
It's just fun to watch, even in the whole, and the comedy helped, like being able to put they tune the comedy to be just at the right level where you're not taking it too seriously. It's fun. It's just fun to watch. It's like, oh, it's a sci-fi. Oh, there's aliens, but it's fun.
Before we get too far into it, what's the plot synopsis of Evolution, Johnny?
So, a scrappy wannabe firefighter is in the middle of the desert, getting ready for his final exam
with a blow-up doll.
With a blow-up doll, and suddenly a meteor flips his car hundreds of feet into the air.
Yeah.
And it's a big to-do. And then the USGS survey, blah, blah, blah. Orlando Jones went online, went and got his U.S. Geological Survey Society certificate, and now he's got something to do with it.
Right.
And they go and they...
Well, just so he could be a volleyball coach.
To be a volleyball... Yeah, it's all about the volleyball coaching and making sure he's the premium Division III volleyball coach, the best that he can be. And, and then the ooze comes out of the rock, and it starts evolving, and all kinds of aliens start metabolizing, and then they can start breathing in the air, and it's a crisis. And what do? They napalm them and turn it into one gigantic amoeba, which they kill with Head and Shoulders.
Ah, so
the
good. Before that, Orlando Jones gets sucked up into its sphincter, too.
Oh my God.
You don't know what I've seen in there. Yeah.
Don't you tell anyone.
Oh my God. It's just like, That's what you watch this movie for, right? It's so funny too, because this was supposed to be. It initially was written as a straightforward sci-fi horror. I don't know if the original cast or at least some of the cast were in mind for that, but Ivan Reitman came in. He's just like, you know what, this is a little bit more tongue in cheek than it should be, and thank God that he made that choice, because who would have known? Like, I don't think this would have worked. I mean, I'm sure there are films out there, or it could have been a film where it was just about a meteor coming in, boom, it kicks off this evolution and really taking over the world. I think there is some kind of like a sci-fi horror movie there, but I'm glad that this wasn't it.
They've done it, right? They did it with Annihilation. It was basically the same thing.
That's a great point.
This concept is, I think, and maybe Reitman kind of knew, like they've done this before. The Blob was a meteor hit, and suddenly it was this biological, became this all-consuming abomination of a thing. It's funny, like we go in one of the cave scenes where they're 3 weeks later, there's like this whole environment has evolved around this impact crater. We see a bunch of creatures running around, and I swear to God, one of the critters I saw running around was one of the exact same, like it's almost like the same template they used in The Thing. When like the guy's arm just detached and starts crawling up the guy's arm to like eat his face. It's the same creature. It just doesn't have a hand running off the back of it. It's like it was kind of like interesting to see some of that. Some like, Hollywood's got some special effects in the stock pile. Let's see what we got. Oh, they use this in Evolution. Let's try this. Yeah, this works.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those little spider things in there that look kind of like the scientist's head that, in The Thing, where it becomes like the little spider thing too. So you could definitely see a lot of horror influences or horror sci-fi influences in this, but instead of just pushing spending a lot of the funds, like pushing the creature effects, they went more towards really honing in the script. But they still did enough, like that little like fat dog looking thing that comes out of the closet and its whole face rips off. That's terrifying. It looked like a little Skeksis that like bites her hand.
It was so creepy. And then when it dies, it just farts.
Yeah. Just great choices.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I was happy with this movie, and I don't think it deserved the heat and the criticism that it got. Yeah, people were like, "Oh, it's not Ghostbusters." No.
Another one too is like, Men in Black did everything that this movie was trying to do better. But again, that's not what it was. This is, that's like an underbelly of established alien universe, or multiple galaxies, and then you have this like checks and balances system where this is just literally a catastrophic event falls in the lap of the least ill-equipped, ill-prepared people, and them having to deal with it. It's just them constantly stumbling and doing things for the wrong reasons and making the wrong decisions. Bottom of Wayne finding it, to the very top of like the governor also making the wrong decisions. And it's funny too, because I feel like that is more in line with reality. Like if something like this happened, I think that the reactions from the top to the bottom would be more in line with Evolution than it would be like Men in Black.
I think it did enough on its own in its own way to be just fine, not be damned for being something else. It didn't really deserve that.
Soundtrack was good. I swear to God, every late 90s, early 2000s had a Power Man 5000 song in it. This one had "Get Up, Drop the Bombshell," and I'm like, oh my God, like every single one of these type of films in this time had it. But it had just like a good score too. Like it had that kind of quirky sci-fi, just like a nice comedy score from John Powell.
And for this one, like the music didn't, I don't know, the music didn't jump out at me as much. It wasn't like it was bad music. It was just kind of like, I can think about this movie and they've got that opening scene music where like that just rolls through my head on loop, and I'm like, that's Evolution. Okay, I know. I can't tell you who did that song, but I know the song.
Kind of sound like the Firefly score. Like just that quirky sci-fi kind of.
Yeah, like we've had conversations about things like, oops, I married an axe murderer, and that music for some reason jumped out more at me than the movie. And that there you go.
This is not Danny Elfman. It didn't have like this crazy, probably $40 million budget for the score, but it made you buy into it more. It made it more believable. I could see that a community college in Arizona with Ethan Suplee and Michael Bauer rocking out as like the end of the world party to a Power Man 5000 song. I could see that. Them pouring beer on themselves.
Yeah.
So it completely worked.
Those two for the minor role that they had was these two flunky community college students who can't handle a simple term paper about why cells are bad.
You're talking about art paper, Mr. Kane? Yeah.
that was a great opening scene. I love that. Duchovny, that's where I think Duchovny's comedy really comes in, and he just really sets that tone in how he handled that situation. That his character handles a situation of everyone except these two clowns in the class ace the paper. Obviously, the teacher's not trying, but he needs to call them out for being bozos for their one paragraph of ill-gotten English.
Right.
So
they just did those type of tropes well, and I liked how Ivan Reitman gave the cast room to breathe and room to do it. Like all of Julianne Moore's awkwardness and her stumbling and klutziness, that was all her decision. It wasn't written that way. She was just probably like, there wasn't a movie in the 90s where she wasn't like a sex pot or, had to like strip off all her clothes. She's like, okay, I get to be like a parody of Scully. So I'm just going to have fun with it. I'm in this PG-13 kind of like sci-fi romp. I'm just going to give it a little bit of flavor. My character's just going to fall all over the place.
She must have been stoked when it's like, oh, what do I got to show? A garter belt.
Yeah.
How much of it? Just the edge. That's it?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Which is another great gag. Is a garter belt in the middle of the day or something.
Day function.
Yeah.
Yes. The impact crater of a meteor. That's the day function. Okay. That was. I did enjoy. I think Julianne Moore they all seemed like they had a lot of fun. More importantly, nearly 20 years after the fact, it still holds up.
This isn't mean-spirited at all. Everything, even like the racial jokes, introducing Orlando Jones as like Dr. Black or Dr. Brown or whatever. It's so like tongue-in-cheek. That kind of humor is kind of reminiscent to like a Ghostbusters, where they never cross the line to being mean-spirited about anything. On the surface, like Orlando Jones is like this pervert that just got a teaching license so he could teach, like young girls volleyball.
Yeah,
but it's played in such a funny way.
It all feels like some of these more edgy topics that they're kind of alluding to, they're hints.
Yeah,
they're discussed, but they're not shown. Like you could do the math, people could figure out what's going on, but nothing got graphic, nothing got like really in your face.
Right,
this is what's happening. It was more of a ha ha ha, is this what you're doing? No, I'm not doing that.
It leaves it up to the audience to make the decision.
We're given an option to decide if we care or don't care.
Movie's absolutely great. I mean, again, you really have to be. I think you really have to smell your own farts as a movie critic to not find enjoyment. Like you really have to go out of your way to be like, oh, this is it doesn't do the things that it's trying to do too well, and it's this and it's just like, what, just watch. Like this is the definition of like, just watch the film and enjoy it. Just have some laughs. Do the effects hold up? Of course not, but they were running out of money. Like they did so much for like $80 million. They accomplished so much as far as getting the effects done, getting the practical effects done, getting the sets done, getting the right actors. If they didn't fill this thing out with the right cast, it would have been a complete shit show. And I think they allocated the funds smartly, and this is just a great film.
Yeah, I think that they didn't need to go over the top with effects on this one. I think they had fun with it. I think it was the exploding amoeba at the end. I think of all if we've got to criticize special effects, let's criticize the biggest ones at the very, very end of the movie.
Sure.
The concept of the simplest life form takes over turns out to be this 30-story tall 10-mile wide freaking amoeba. So what do? They drive a fire truck underneath it, right up to the sphincter of this amoebus blob of madness.
It doesn't have any other discernible body parts, but it does have an asshole.
Mitosis at a citywide level.
Yeah.
That's how big. That's what we're talking about here. If you want to criticize this movie, you throw it at the very end when the movie's almost over and you've already enjoyed it, and you can just be like, fuck it.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
And then chase your criticism with cyanide because fuck off because it's so fun. Like it like they still had to build that like sphincter area. Like Orlando Jones gets sucked up into not CGI asshole. Like it's still so good. You don't know where I've been.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen things. It's horrible.
Give me back my friend, you sphincter.
Since we can generally agree we both enjoyed this movie,
right?
We'll do a little nitpicking.
Sure.
I'll gig them on that. I feel like one of the brothers should have been driving. I feel like they would have been more like attuned to that.
Or the firefighter.
The guy who's been training to do the whole thing.
Sure.
That seems like, but maybe they're like, no, we don't want Julianne to be actually going up in the sphincter. Maybe we don't want her anywhere near the sphincter. Maybe she was insisting that in the contract. I'm not doing anything with a sphincter.
In this movie.
Movie. I'm up to here with sphincter.
There are things like, he goes in and he yells at them. He's just like, they wiped all of our stuff. They took all our computers. And then the very next scene, he's going back to his lab and he's on a computer looking up information. Fine. There are little things if you want to be a dick about it, but do those little, inconsistencies outweigh are they a reason to not watch this film and actually belly laugh? Because it's so hard. Like, you could find bad movies that you could go laugh at. And it's easier for me to laugh at a film that tries and misses than actual comedies. Like, I actually have a hard time laughing at straight up comedies. This film still, 20-something years later, or almost 20 years later, has me belly laughing like I watched it for the first time. So it has that level of pedigree behind it, that Ivan Reitman, quick quippy humor that just makes me chuckle. Like, it just does it. And it's hard for me, as a jaded movie person, to find that still. And that's why I feel like this is so darling to me.
Yeah, and for people who want to naysay this movie, there are movies prior to and since who do this similar thing way, way worse.
Yes.
So much worse. And there's there you could do worse. So if you're looking for something to just have a good laugh at,
am I gonna go run? This spawned a short-lived animated series, Alienators: Evolution Continues, which was like a French/American animated series. Am I gonna go check that out? Probably not. Like, this is a film where its legacy doesn't really need an additional sequel, like a Ghostbusters. We gave a bunch of shit to comparing this to Ghostbusters, but there are some comparisons where, Ghostbusters, did it need sequels? People were clamoring for it. I don't think Evolution needs one. This was its thing, and it did it so well. I don't think that we needed to go on and do more.
They wrote the story arc to a conclusion.
Yep.
It's like, they did fine. There's no need to, forcing sequels where there's not really a sequel to be had. No, I don't think that's necessary.
Right.
Like, and kind of like we live in a world now where you can tell when something's being written to a conclusion. Like, oh God, there was a show, what was it? Was it Ted? The nerdy geeky dude, and it's like the spy drama type thing, but it was like kind of a comedy where every 6 episodes they're writing it to a conclusion because they have no idea if they're going to get another season or another second half of their season. It was horrible. We didn't even finish the series. It was so bad. It was like, it just got boring. You can tell when something has run out of gas. And like Evolution, you get to the end of Evolution, there's nothing left. That's it.
Yeah,
we're
it's
done
all
here.
gas, and that's it.
Thank you. Bob's your uncle. You had a good time. Get on. There's the door. Go. You're done.
Bob was
Move
my
on.
dad, but
Yes,
I get
go
the,
on.
yeah.
Do great things with your life, but don't do it with this.
Exactly. Who would you recommend this movie for, Johnny?
Oh, if you're a Duchovny fan, if you like, listen, Duchovny did Sci-Fi and X-Files and all that stuff.
And Red
but
Shoe Diaries.
He went off to do Californication, which was more him being just a sexual deviant, basically. But I think if you like Duchovny, this is a good movie for you. I think if you want to explore the scope of Julianne Moore, this is a good one. It's a movie where she doesn't die. She's like one of those actors who is always seeming like she's out there dying in movies. She doesn't die here, so this is a great one for Julianne Moore fans who want to see a full movie with Julianne Moore. If you're if you like sci-fi comedy, if you want something that, if you're into aliens, if you're into dragons and monsters and all that stuff, you get that with this. If you like comedy, you get that here. I think this movie can, if you like sci-fi, you will likely enjoy this movie. If you're not into sci-fi, maybe not.
And real quick, piggybacking off what you said, the diversity of creatures in this is a lot of fun, because you get everything literally from an amoeba to a flatworm to like terrifying nightmare fuel monkeys. Like those apes look terrifying. Like you could see that being the monster
pupilless eyes, and
no
nose.
Oh man,
and the 3 fingers.
It's Twilight Zone level freaky. Yeah, man. And those are like suits. Those are practical things that you could see in a straightforward horror film, and they play in those scenes that they're in as like straightforward horror scenes. Like there's good tension there. I mean, if you're a fan of just do you like laughing? Do you like having an actual good time watching a film?
What's your take on Oxygen?
Exactly. Watch Evolution then. And this is something that it's not so raunchy that you can't let the kids watch too. Like this is, it's all implied. It's smart comedy. It's not like straight up in your face dick and fart jokes. It's all like, everyone could watch this. Like if you're a 6-year-old all the way to, an 80-year-old, I think you could find enjoyment in this. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think 2000 PG-13 is 2020 PG.
Sure.
Just like, good God, you see some of the humor in Pixar, it's for the adults, but the kids are totally missing it. This movie's fine.
It's so fine. All right. Well, did you agree with us? I mean, were we geeking out too much about Evolution? Are we wrong? Is this just a bad MIB ripoff? Is it a bad Ghostbusters? Then yell at us in the comment section. I welcome all takers. Go ahead and hit the like button downstairs. Share this around. Subscribe to this channel for more weekly episodes of the Cult of Films. Mr. Johnny Mulligans, getting to be a rarity that we both enjoy a film this much and we agree on a film this much, but this was one of those exceptions. Where can everyone find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Mulligans, and I even have a Twitch channel for doing Magic the Gathering EDH content. I haven't put any. The logo is a dumpster fire. It's called Viva Commander Time. Perfect. It is basically, I don't know. It's a pet project, and if I put anything up there, great. But if not, I'm not losing sleep over it. It's fine.
Excellent. My boy Johnny Mulligans, the Viva La Bam of the Magic the Gathering community. Again, dating myself quite a bit because no one else will date me.
Oh my!
You can find me right here on this very channel. They said, we said. You could also talk movies with us right on the Cult of Films Twitter feed. That is right down below. It's at the Cult of Films, all in lowercase. Made it very easy for you. Or if you want to talk further with me personally, I am at John the Host. Until next time, just take the leg. Just take the leg.
Take the leg.